Before we begin, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for being part of the story. This happened to me 2 years ago, not long after I started working as a package delivery driver. I had just been hired by a well-known company, one that everyone would recognize if I mentioned its name. My delivery route was in a rural province. Like most delivery drivers, my workdays started in the morning and stretched into the evening. Everything was routine for the first 3 months, until one particular day when something strange happened. That day is still vivid in my memory. It was hectic, with an unusually high number of packages to deliver. I started early in the morning and worked non-stop into the afternoon. Then, the unexpected happened. My vehicle had a flat tire. Fixing it and getting back on the road took several hours, throwing my schedule into disarray. Originally, I had planned to finish my deliveries by early evening, but the delay forced me to work late into the night. Even so, I was determined to complete every last delivery. I knew the next day would be just as busy, and I didn't want to carry over any unfinished packages. After hours of exhausting work, I was physically and mentally drained, but finally, I was down to the last package. The last destination was an old housing estate, far from my usual route. When I checked the address, a strange nervousness crept over me. I had never heard of this neighborhood before, nor had I ever delivered there. But it was the last package, so I brushed off my concerns and pressed on. By then, it was already past 9 p.m. I made my way to the location as quickly as possible. When I arrived, the neighborhood felt off. It was old and unkempt, with no security guards at the entrance. No one stopped me as I drove in. The silence was unsettling. Most houses were completely dark, with only a few dimly lit windows scattered throughout. As I looked around, something felt wrong. Many houses were abandoned, their walls cracked and worn by time. Some were swallowed by darkness, while others had weak, flickering lights that barely illuminated their interiors. A deep sense of unease crept over me. This place was unlike anything I had encountered before. I drove deeper into the neighborhood and pulled out my phone to call the recipient. The line rang and rang, but no one answered. Glancing at the package, I checked the house number on the box and started searching for the address. The heavy darkness and eerie quiet made the task even more unnerving. Finally, I stopped in front of the house. It was an old 2-story structure, its exterior weathered and crumbling. The front yard was overgrown with wild grass and weeds. As I stepped out of the vehicle, I scanned the surroundings. That's when I noticed something. The faint glow of a light coming from a room on the second floor. Then, in that very window, a man appeared. He stood there, staring down at me. Then, slowly, he raised a hand and beckoned me inside. For a moment, I hesitated, but this had to be the recipient, waiting for his delivery. I grabbed the package and stepped toward the house. As I got closer, more unsettling details came into view. The house looked even more run down up close, as if it had been abandoned for years. The yard was littered with garbage, broken furniture, and old, unusable electrical appliances scattered everywhere. I stood there for a moment, taking it all in, before realizing something strange. Why hadn't the man come down to get the package? Uneasy, I took a step back and glanced up at the second floor again. The dim light was still on, but the man was gone. Thinking the man was on his way down, I waited. 5 minutes had passed, and I was starting to feel uneasy. I had been standing there for a while, yet the man still hadn't come out to collect his package. Growing impatient, I stepped closer to the glass window outside. Peering through a gap in the curtains, I noticed that the ground floor of the house was almost entirely dark. The only light came from a faint glow filtering down from the upper floor. Curious, I leaned in even further, sweeping my gaze around the inside of the house. That's when I saw something moving near the stairs. Since it was dark inside, I squinted, trying to make out what it was. Then, as my eyes adjusted, I was struck with sheer terror. Hanging from the stair railing leading to the second floor was the body of a man. His face was twisted in agony, eyes wide open in a frozen stare. His body dangled lifelessly, contorted in a horrifying position. My entire body froze, but my heart pounded so hard it felt as if it would burst from my chest. I was so shocked that I dropped the package. It hit the ground with a thud. Then, instinct took over. I spun around and bolted. I jumped into my truck and sped off, not daring to look back. Only when I was far from the house did I finally pull into a gas station, trying to calm myself down to regain my composure. Over and over, I asked myself, what had I just seen? Was it real, or merely a trick of the eye? Just as I was trying to process everything, my phone suddenly rang. When I answered, I was startled to hear a man on the other end, asking about the package. I froze. Hadn't I already delivered it? I was certain I had. Frantically, I checked the delivery system, and what I discovered made my blood run cold. I had delivered the package to the wrong house. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The house I had just fled from wasn't the recipient's home. I had mistakenly delivered the package to the wrong address. My hands trembled as I tried to think. What should I do? The horrifying sight from earlier still haunted me, lingering in my mind. But I knew I had a responsibility to take the package back and deliver it to the correct address. Summoning every ounce of courage, I turned the truck around and drove back. The closer I got, the heavier the dread in my chest became. When I arrived, the front gate was still open, exactly as I had left it, but this time, the house was eerily silent. There was no longer any light inside, no glow from the second floor. Everything was unsettlingly still. The eerie atmosphere sent a chill down my spine. I hesitated, but I had a job to do. Determined to fulfill my duty, I took a deep breath, got out of the truck, and stepped through the gate despite my fear. I carefully scanned my surroundings and noticed that the house appeared abandoned. There was no sign anyone had lived there for a long time. Wasting no time, I rushed to where I had dropped the package. To my relief, it was still there. Grabbing it quickly, I turned and sprinted out of the house, never once looking back. Once inside my truck, I slammed the door shut and locked it, gasping as if I had just surfaced from deep water. Only after I sped away did I feel as if a huge weight had been lifted from my chest. I wasted no time driving straight to the correct address. When I arrived, the customer was already waiting outside. After apologizing for the mix-up, I handed over the package with a forced smile, but the unease lingered. I couldn't shake the fear from what I had witnessed. I couldn't help myself. I had to ask. Hesitantly, I told the customer about what I had seen. I described everything in detail, the house, the eerie silence, and the terrifying sight inside. The silence, the hanging man. As I spoke, his expression grew serious. When I finished, the man let out a long sigh before revealing something chilling. The history of that house, the one I had mistakenly entered, had been abandoned for years. The last person to live there was a troubled man, known for his reclusive nature and strange behavior. One day, he ended his own life by hanging himself by the staircase. Since then, no one had dared to move in, and the house had remained abandoned. The neighbors whispered about strange sightings, shadows flickering by the windows, glimpses of a lifeless body hanging in the darkness. Exactly what I had seen. A deep, unbearable chill settled into my bones. Had my mind played tricks on me? Or had I really seen something that was never meant to be seen?